Hey everyone and welcome back. If you're new here, hi, I'm Andy Fellows. I make videos on destructive cults, damaging norms and just generally bad ideas. I do want to apologise for any background noise that's in this video today. There's not much I can do about that. It's just the kind of time of day that I'm recording and it gets a bit noisy here around this time. So what we're looking at today is a guy called Ralph Smart. Now Ralph Smart is someone that I used to watch a little bit of when I was into all the new age stuff. I know that he has some links with Teal Swan. I think they've done a few videos together. There's a lot of crossover with their philosophies, their ideas, the things that they teach. Ralph Smart, however, is a whole other experience. His videos are, to put it nicely, strange. And in the time since I used to watch them and now, they've got stranger. He's become a lot more confident in the strangeness that he puts in the videos by the looks of it. And in just watching the video that I've selected for this video today, there's a few bite model ticks that I'm seeing. Now, if you haven't heard of Ralph Smart, you might actually recognize his face if you've seen the episode of Cults Explained on Netflix. They actually included some clips of him in that episode of Explained. And needless to say, he wasn't very happy about it and made his own he made his own response to that. I'll stick a link to that in the description below so that you can check that out for yourself. But that's not the video we're responding to today. Today we're responding to, in a similar tune to the Teal Swan 2020 predictions, I saw that Ralph Smart has done 2020 predictions. So I thought, why not go through them? Maybe we'll see if they're a little bit more specific than Teal's. Be interesting to see if they line up with Teal's, was one of the questions I had. And they do and they don't. I mean, this is the thing with this kind of stuff. They are always quite vague, right? So he's made 10 predictions. It's a 25-minute video, so this one's going to be fairly long. I apologize in advance for the long clips of this guy that we're going to watch, because it's pretty not to your taste. If you're watching my videos, it's probably not going to be to your taste, let's be fair. So I apologize in advance for that. But yeah. That said, let me just take a few seconds to tell you about my Patreon. Right now, we are one patron away from hitting the 15 patron goal. When we hit that goal, I'm going to be doing a podcast, which is going to be available exclusively to the $5 supporter tier level patrons. We're going to be talking about cults. I'll be joined by a co-host, and we'll be unpacking some of this stuff from a more personal point of view, from having a bit of a discussion and encouraging a critical, skeptical conversation about cults and related things. So if you're interested in that and you want to see that happen, you can actually make that happen now. If you become the 15th patron on my Patreon, then it will be you that makes that happen. So that's a pretty cool thing. I'm really excited to get started on that. So if you want to see that happen, please consider doing that. Now that that's said, let's get on with this video. Let's have a little look at Ralph Smart's 2020 predictions and what he thinks is going to happen this year.
Peace, infinite waters, diving deep once again. Beautiful deep divers, we are out here in nature, baby. We got the lovebirds up there. It is a beautiful day, deep divers. Just finished sun gazing. We're just, woo, breathing in that good ass prana, baby. World predictions for 2020. Deep divers, I'm sending you tons of good ass energy right now. Take that, take that, take that.
I will. Thank you. As you can see, going in, the word experience is a good word to describe what we're watching here. Very strange mannerisms, very quirky. If you're into like new agey stuff and this guy appears in your recommendations, chances are you're going to watch a little bit just to answer the question, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, who is this guy? What's he about? Why is he talking like this? It's very strange. That's our introduction to Ralph Smart. That's what Ralph Smart's like. Let's see what he has to say.
A lot of people are excited about 2020. I am. Why? Because this is the year of the full disclosure. The hidden is coming to light. No more secrets. And we ain't even had breakfast yet. Can I get a hello there?
It doesn't get less weird than this. He keeps doing things like that.
So wonderful deep divers. I've been getting messages about 2020. Ralph, what do you think is going to happen in 2020? And let me tell you this. I'm a Pisces deep divers, born on March 3rd. So I'm naturally intuitive. And I've been having dreams about what is going to go down in 2020. And my oh my, a lot is going to happen in 2020. Look, the first thing that is going to happen in 2020 is that people are going to get their vision back. A lot of people are going to wake up to something they were unaware of before. I've been in this awakening community, deep divers, for a long time. But even I know in 2020, I'm going to get a greater vision. You're pulling the blinds back. Now you can see.
So there's a strange metaphysical claim there that because he's a Pisces, he is able to tell us these things and that they're true because of that. I don't really put much stock in astrology and anything like that. So I'm not convinced by that claim. So he's saying people are going to get their vision back. I don't know if he's talking about like a genuine, like a Jesus sight to the blind situation, or whether he's talking about like people that have already got working eyes are going to get their vision back, or whether he's talking about some kind of metaphysical thing. Presumably it's some kind of symbolic, analogy, metaphorical vision returning kind of a situation. He's not very clear about that. There's a lot of things in this video he's not very clear about. One thing that I did want to pick up on here, which keeps coming up throughout the video, is that he says 2020 is clear vision, and somehow that's related to the year. I don't know why the term that we use to describe clear, like good vision, has anything to do with the year, and has anything to do with the energy of the year and what's going to happen in the year. Because let's bear in mind, the term 2020 that we use to describe good vision and the number of the year they're both man-made things. So what that has to do with what's going to happen in the year in a metaphysical larger than life context is beyond me at this point. It doesn't seem to make much sense, and I would hope that he would outline that a little bit better, that he would explain that a little bit more. And as far as I'm aware, I may have missed it in the video, but as far as I'm aware, he doesn't do that. He mentions at some point here that he's had a dream. He's dreamt about the future. He's dreamt what things are going to be. First of all, I have never had a dream that is so clear and so specific that I could lay out 10 points from that dream as predictions for any year or anything, 10 linked points that are cohesive enough that you could put them into a video and say that you dreamt of them. So I'm suspicious as to whether he's actually had an actual dream about this, as in when we're sleeping and dreaming and all of that kind of thing. He may be speaking in allegory, he may be speaking in metaphor, probably is a little bit there. He says a lot of people are going to wake up to something that they were unaware of before. If that's not obvious and vague, I don't know what is. Like, okay, yeah, I mean, that happens pretty much every day for most people consistently. Like, yes, you're right, Ralph. What is the point in saying that? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't go anywhere. There's nothing profound about that. But again, we are talking about the New Age here. We are talking about people who are notoriously prone to taking something that really is inconsequential, doesn't matter at all, and then blowing that out of proportion. I mean, that's what we're seeing here, right?
So many of us right now aren't seeing properly. So many distractions in this matrix. But in 2020, I guarantee you, more and more people are going to start to stop drinking the Kool-Aid. They're going to get their vision back. They're going to see clearly. They're going to see the BS in the news, the television, and they're going to get their vision back. What happens, deep divers, when you have perfect vision?
Don't you think it's ironic that he is talking about the Kool-Aid? Also, they're always talking about the Matrix. Have they seen it? I have this all the time when I hear people talking about the Matrix and using it as an analogy for life, right? In the Matrix, when they wake up, they might realize, yes, they were inside this thing, right? The world outside that is horrible. It's grim. It's dangerous. There's all sorts of problems. Now, I'm not like, okay, so I'm the first person to say, if the truth is horrible, that doesn't change whether I want to hear it or not. The truth is the truth. And I will readjust my mental way, my way of dealing with things, my way of thinking about things, so that I can find peace, happiness, whatever. having taken the truth and you know. So I'm not sitting here saying I would rather stay in the illusion because the truth is a nasty thing. But these people are basically saying that waking up is this wonderful, amazing thing, and on the other side is this beautiful everything, blah, blah, blah. But actually, that doesn't run directly parallel with The Matrix, as far as I remember. I haven't watched that for a long time. But as far as I remember, it doesn't. You come out of The Matrix, it's painful, things are difficult, and then the world that you're in now is horrible. And it's like dystopian. It's just it's a strange thing to fixate on and obsess over, this analogy of The Matrix, when actually in the story, and I don't know if this was different in the original, but in the films, it's not a nice world they wake up to. And maybe that's part of what they're saying here. Well, the truth is not actually that nice, but we need to make a better world. In which case, I kind of get it, but even so, why are we so fixated on this thing? Use something else. Why are we still going on about The Matrix? It's not a manual for life. It's certainly not a direct analogy to our existence. There's elements of it that you could use in that way, but you could do that with most art. I mean, what's special about The Matrix here? Why are we so fixated on The Matrix here?
If I look at this camera right now, that's one perspective. But if I go around the camera, that's another perspective. So a greater vision means that people are going to be seeing things from different perspectives, angles, bird's eye view. They're going to see how this whole thing is working, how this whole matrix is working. They're going to be able to put the dots together, connect the dots and say, okay, this happened because of this.
So again, with the Matrix thing, but also what you probably have noticed throughout this video, you may not have noticed it because chances are when I've actually edited this together, I've cut out a lot of his very long pauses, but he does do a similar thing to Bentinho Massaro, as you saw in the last video. There's a lot of long pauses in between the things that he's saying. So the viewers are going to be hanging on for the next word. They're going to be thinking, what's he going to say next? They're hanging on for the next thing, the next truth bomb, the next strange little quirky thing he does. Also, you'll notice in the background of his video, there's a little bit of music, quite calming music, which obviously will have the intention of relaxing the viewer. Not necessarily a bad thing, but when you put that in conjunction with the long pauses, which do have that effect on the viewer that they're going to be like, and it creates a sort of more relaxed, almost trance-like state when you're listening to these kinds of things. It's difficult I find it kind of difficult not to fall into that state while I was watching this video as I was going through it, because it does have that effect. And you add to those things also the fact that you add to that the fact that he's basically saying nothing. It's like mind-numbing, repetitive, vacuous phrasing. Most of it is tautology. He's saying the same thing again and again and again and again. And I realize I've just done that same thing by saying it's tautology and then telling you that I'm doing it again and again and again. But that's effectively what he's doing. And so you put all of those things together, the way that he's talking deep divers, and you add that to the music underneath it, and then he's talking about all this kind of stuff. We are having an awakening, deep divers. It doesn't make any sense, but you're there. You're glued to it. And then at some point he says something that you can latch onto, that goes into your head. And it's that stays with you. So, and what you'll see in this video is actually there's a lot of us versus them kind of thinking. That's going to go into your head as a viewer watching this. That's what's going to stick with you, I think. And again, remember, I'm not an expert on this. I'm just sitting here and watching this video. So please make up your own mind. Please go and watch this if you feel to, if you want to. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for the purposes it was intended, but I would say that you should be making up your own mind. You should be doing research on this kind of thing. Look up the bite model, look up all this information, make up your own mind, please. Don't just take my word for this.
You're going to start to see more people connecting the dots to see that, hey, so many of us have been screwed over for so long, and now it's time to take our power back. Can I get a hello there? What is the second thing, deep divers, that's going to go down in 2020? According to Ralph Smart's dreams, right? Red pill, blue pill. Okay, this is a matrix, deep divers. But in this matrix, there are many Morpheuses, okay? And Morpheus in the Matrix told Neo, you take the red pill or you can take the blue pill. You take the red pill, I will show you how deep the rabbit hole goes and you stay in Wonderland. Or you take the blue pill and you wake up and you believe whatever you want to believe and you carry on in your ignorance. A lot of people are gonna have to make this choice, red pill or blue pill. And a lot of people, their families are gonna be split up because there's gonna be a breakaway, meaning that people aren't gonna tolerate lower frequencies anymore. And I see this in 2020, it is gonna be a massive split because not everybody is gonna make it into a higher frequency. Not everybody is going to want to do that. A lot of people are going to be like Cypher in the Matrix. They're going to want to plug themselves back into this video game, this illusion.
Honestly, I hope that you're as troubled by what he just said as I am there, because what it sounds like is we're coming from a place of mystical manipulation. We're coming from a place of asserting a higher purpose, raising the frequency, having a higher blah, 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 energy, blah, 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 spiritual this and that. And using that, he seems to be priming his viewers to be prepared to break off relationships, to be prepared to get rid of people that don't fit with this new high frequency lifestyle. Now, I've got to say, in certain instances, there's an argument for distancing oneself from certain people, family, friends, whatever. If there is parts of you that you can't change, that you're not prepared to change, that they're not prepared to accept, if they become a toxic influence in your life, understandable. However, if the point of view that you're coming from, which is causing you to do that, is one of having kidded yourself into believing something that's not true, some kind of delusion. I don't want to use that word or trivialize it, but that kind of a thing, beliefs that are unsubstantiated or unfalsifiable, unverifiable beliefs, then that's where you start to get into this iffy terrain. And I think that when we're talking about this kind of thing, when we're talking about what Ralph Smart's talking about here, raise your vibration, and there's going to be people that you're going to want to split up. Families, I think he specifically used the phrase, families are going to be split up. Does he realize what he's saying there? I don't know that he does. And if he does, then I would be incredibly wary of this individual, because that, again, is not something that should be taken lightly, especially if we're talking about a family breaking up on the basis of a spiritual or religious belief that is not encroaching on anybody's human rights necessarily. Like in terms of like queer people who are separating themselves from their family a little bit because the family's not accepting them, and actually some of their beliefs cross over into the ideas that that individual should be denied certain human rights, marriage, things like that, that I think are things that we should all be afforded as equals, not because of anything or withdrawn because of anything, but because we're humans, and we should be extending that to everybody, not just certain people that certain people like, don't like, whatever. I think the distinction to make here is probably that when we're looking at a family member who is breaking away because of their own beliefs and saying, I don't want to be around my whole family or my whole whatever, community, neighborhood, friends group, whatever, because of these new beliefs I've got, because of my ideas about ascension, enlightenment, raising my frequency, all that kind of stuff. That's when you get an issue. And I think that really the ideal in any kind of a situation would be to come to a place where we can respect each other, afford each other freedom to be who we are, to the extent that no one's getting hurt. I think it's really important. I like the phrase, your freedom to swing your fist ends at my nose, basically. Like, yeah, you can swing, you can be who you want to be, just don't hurt anyone. In terms of like separating families on the basis of belief, that's something that I struggle with, and I don't think it should be done. I don't think that people should be separating based on belief. What I don't want to do here is confuse or conflate the issue of cults and spiritual and religious organizations and ideas separating families. I don't want to confuse or conflate that with queer people and human rights and families who are literally just being toxic with someone because of who they are for the sake of their beliefs. or their tradition or things they have left unexamined in their own ideas. Those are two very separate issues. But the fact that Ralph Smart here is saying this is troubling to me. It's definitely a bite model point. Again, look up the bite model, just Google it. You'll find it, freedomofmind.com, Stephen Hassan's bite model. You'll find that point on there. The idea of saying who you can and can't talk to, and separating people, shunning people who don't believe, who aren't prepared to join your group, or people who have left your group. That kind of a thing. That's the kind of area that we're in here. It's troubling. And as I say, there's a lot of kind of us and them talk in this video, so watch out for that.
But some people are going to be like, wait a minute, let me wake up to my greatness. Let me see how far the rabbit hole goes, how deep it goes. Let me question everything. Are those clouds real? Are those trees real? Okay, what's really going on? Do they control the weather with HARP? What's really going on? That's the red pill. Now you're starting to question. Why is the world like this? Did they really go to the moon? That's the red pill. And a lot of people are going to connect with other people who see the world like they do.
So obviously here you can see how there's a lot of conspiracy theories that this guy is very much in support of. HARP, weather control, moon landing, conspiracy theories, definitely something to be aware of, I think, with this kind of a person. And you do see this a lot in the New Age as well. There's a lot of people that are supposed to be leaders. They're putting themselves in an authority position, and then they just basically tell people to look up conspiracy theories and believe in them and question everything. That's like one of the catchphrases in this kind of a community. And yet there are certain things they won't question. There are certain things they're not prepared to question. For example, is Ralph Smart talking shit is a good question to ask. Is Bentinho Massaro talking shit is a good question to ask. Is Teal Swan talking shit is a good question to ask. I'm not saying they are. I'm saying it's a very good question to ask. And you start at that point and you start to go deeper, and you realize, you start to ask yourself, why are they saying these things? How have they come to these conclusions? Do they have any evidence for the conclusions? Do they have any evidence for the things that they're asserting are true? Those are really good questions, I think. Maybe is that tree real is not in the same realm as is Ralph Smart talking shit? But you know. I think that with this kind of a thing, it's very much that meme that was in the cult meme video that I did. Yeah, question everything. Yeah, you can question everything. Here's a list of the approved questions. And I do wonder with this video if I'm allowed to question Ralph, because he's saying question everything. So surely questioning Ralph's okay, right? Questioning some of these bold assertions Ralph's making, that's okay, right? I mean, that's part of everything, isn't it? Or is that extra to everything?
Deep divers, what's the third thing that's going to happen in 2020? I had a dream, deep divers, that there was going to be a rise in conscious stars. Now, what do I mean by conscious stars? I mean by you are going to see more conscious minds on social media, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, on all of these apps. You are going to see more people with conscious minds who are influencing a whole lot of people. It is going to be taken up a whole nother notch because more people are going to start finding their voice. Already you had Osiris, coming out talking about the music industry, how it's screwing him over, You are going to have more musicians talk about the industry, break their silence, a full disclosure of what's really going on in these industries, and they're going to expose it for what it is. And more people aren't going to be scared to talk their truth.
So going in here, my first question is, how are we defining conscious? What is a conscious influencer? What I'm wondering is whether or not he considers someone like Gwyneth Paltrow to be a conscious influencer, or conscious celebrity. I think that's somewhat troubling if he does. I'm also wondering, you know, because he's talking here about the Illuminati stuff. He mentioned the music industry there. The thing with the Illuminati thing is interesting to me because as a younger person, I was given a David Icke book by a family member who said, read this book. And so I read some of it. Honestly, I didn't read it all. I'm not a big reader. I prefer audiobooks. Thankfully now, audiobook services are available. I can listen to audiobooks and I can enjoy them. Use my coupon code to get 10%. I'm joking. I haven't got a Audible sponsorship thing yet, but I will one day. Watch this space. But yeah, anyway, the thing with the Illuminati stuff is it's interesting to me because actually there seems to have been somewhat of a grain of truth in some of these conspiracies, if we are to believe things like The Family, the docuseries that was on Netflix, which I do recommend watching if you're into that kind of thing. I imagine you are because you're watching my channel. And so there seems to be like a grain of truth in some of these conspiracy theories, obviously not all of them. But the thing is with conspiracy theories is that, especially with people like David Icke, and that's one of my main issues with someone like David Icke, is that what happens is they take something that you can prove, that you can show is true, and then they make all these wild assumptions about it, which they then glue in the middle of the thing they can prove and their random conclusion that they've decided is the truth. And that's a real issue for me with people like David Icke. They say, look at this secret society, look at this club that exists. They're doing all this and they're doing all that, and you can see this and you can see that. And they pepper in proof of some things. It's kind of dishonest, though, the way that they do it, because the links, their citations that they're using don't seem to actually show the thing that he's saying it shows. It's trouble in that. And then, of course, he will use it all to support some wild conclusion like the royal family are lizards and that they eat babies. It's like, no. Show that is happening. And if you can't show that that's happening, how can you be so certain that that's happening? It's ridiculous. Think. I don't know what world David Icke lives in, honestly. I mean, he does a pretty good job of outlining the world he thinks he lives in, but the real world that he does live in, I don't know what that is. He seems to only have one foot in this world. Let's be honest. He's also saying about people that are going to be less scared to tell their truth or whatever. So if we're speaking about their truth in terms of it being a subjective truth, then in theory, what I'm saying now is my truth. I'm not very scared to say it. I'm wondering if Ralph Smart's okay with that. I'm wondering if this is a bridge too far for him. We've already seen that Ralph Smart doesn't like to be criticized, doesn't like to be called a cult leader or say that he's involved, he's running a cult or anything like that, based on his response to the Netflix episode. So we will see, to the explained episode. So we'll see.
You see, deep divers, I talk about what people are thinking, but are afraid to say. What? Slow motion this side. But in 2020, more people are going to have the confidence to speak their heart and mind without fear.
He's also positioning himself there as some kind of truth figure. Like, I'm saying what people are thinking, but they're afraid to say. So brave Ralph saying all this stuff that we're all afraid to say. A lot of the stuff he said here is not something that I've really been thinking about. It seems to be kind of new agey vaguisms that are very steeped in distrust for the system and distrust for government, distrust for industry, and a lot of assumptions, a lot of claims which don't really have much grounding in reality. I don't think that he's saying what I'm thinking, and I wonder if he's saying what you're thinking. Let's be fair.
Now, deep divers, what's the fourth thing that's gonna happen in 2020? I've already seen it. The rise in machine, the rise in AI, artificial intelligence. We are moving closer to singularity. That is where artificial intelligence supersedes human intellect. Now, 2020 is where the Archons, they are going to take it to the next level of artificial intelligence.
So he says he's already seen it. Does he mean he's already seen it in a dream, or he's already seen it happening in the world? If he's already seen it happening in the world, then it's not a prediction. Come on, Ralph. If you've already seen it in your dreams, please be a bit more specific. But also, dreaming about robots and AI doesn't mean it's going to happen. None of these things that he's saying he saw in his dreams are necessarily going to happen just because he saw them in his dreams and now thinks they're going to happen. I don't know why he's so sure that they're premonitions or predictions that he's gathered from a dream state. I'm not sure what weight he's given dreams here. I had to look up what archons were. I wasn't familiar with them. I've heard the term before from other people who were into New Agey stuff when I was coming out of the New Agey stuff, and it was always a little bit like for me then. So I looked it up anyway. It turns out they're basically bad spirits or bad entities or something that apparently make up an even badder entity or something like that. I think it's a Gnostic thing. Yeah. So apparently there's archons. Apparently they exist. Again, are we going to verify this, Ralph, or are we just going to say it and move on? Do a little cute little laugh and let it go unchecked and unexplained. I don't know if this is like a dog whistle kind of thing, like people that already know about that are now going to be, yeah, archons, or not. If that's the case, then that's weird, and again, I would say that's a bit of a red flag. There's a lot of stuff in the New Age things that I would find hard to believe if I was a New Ager. And I don't know if he's the same or if he's someone who is very much into this kind of thing, but and believes his own woo, as it were. This is also something that this prediction video from Ralph Smart has in common with the Teal Swan predictions video, or she did a video on it. I looked at the blog post, but that I did a video on recently. In that obviously tech is going to improve. Obviously, that's like a really safe prediction to make. It's pretty easy, pretty cheap prediction, to be honest. And by the way, if you haven't seen the Teal Swan predictions video, it's worth a watch. We did have a good laugh. I'll stick a link to that in the card above and in the description below.
Already they have cars that can drive themselves. You're going to see that taken up another notch. Okay, you are going to see that people are going to be wearing more technology. Okay, they already wear the smartwatch, but people are literally going to be wearing their mobile phone on them. And when they go to sleep, it's going to be on them. That's all coming in 2020 because they want you to become a machine. However, you see, if you are diving deep, you know there's no place like home. Where is home? Mother Nature. You heal yourself in nature. And what they want is for you to become a machine. When you are a machine, you lose your soul and the machine takes it. And that's why a lot of people are confused right now, depressed, full of anxiety, because they are selling their souls to the machine, to the AI.
So this is a little bit more specific, but no less obviously safe. People are going to be going to bed with their technology on them. I think that possibly already happens. I'm not a watch wearer. I don't like watches. I have a bit of a phobia of watches. I know that's a strange thing to just chuck in there. I'll explain that maybe in a live stream at some point. But I don't know that there are many people in the world that if they have like an Apple Watch or something, that they aren't going to bed wearing it or whatever. Fitbit, things like that. People are probably just going to be wearing them all the time, unless they've got to take it off to charge it. I don't know. I don't know the mechanics, but I could imagine that some people do wear those things in bed. Again, it's a more specific prediction, but it's certainly no less safe. Also, what I want to highlight here, and he's mentioned a they quite a lot in this video. Who is this they? And do we think that what's happening there is an us versus them? It sounds to me like that's what's happening. There's a them, there's a they. They want this, they want to do that, they want to make this happen. They're trying to control you. They're trying to make you scared. That kind of a rhetoric. Who is they? It's quite a vague they. And presumably it's anybody who doesn't believe these kinds of things. Or perhaps it's a government, perhaps it's an Illuminati sort of situation. I know he's made reference to some conspiracies that depend on an Illuminati in order to be somewhat good ideas or reasonable things to believe, like the harp thing and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that there's anything to these things, obviously. I honestly feel like people that believe in conspiracy theories believe in them for the most part, or at least to some degree, because it makes them feel safer in the world. And I know that sounds strange, but if you believe that you live in a world that is pure chaos and that no one's in control, that could be quite scary. But if you actually think that maybe there is some order here, that someone is doing this, that someone's in control of this, then that could perhaps bring some degree of comfort to these people. And also the idea that they're one of the ones that realizes it. They're one of the ones that is making the world a better place. They're one of the ones that's outside of it all. Gives them a sense of significance as well. And you do kind of see that with alien abduction stories as well. Typically people that are recounting an alien abduction story, if they're asked why it was them, they'll give you some kind of vague story that leans towards a sense of significance. They'll give you something, they chose me because I was blah, 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 blah. And it typically leans towards them feeling significant, special in some way. And I think that a similar thing is probably true of conspiracy theories. So maybe what we're talking about here is a bunch of people who don't feel seen, that don't feel recognized, that feel quite unsafe in the world and want an explanation. Maybe that's one possible way of interpreting this thing. And it may be part of why people believe in it. That's my tuppence anyway. In this clip, Ralph Smart made a lot of assertions. He said something about a soul, that a soul, first of all, exists and is being taken by machines somehow. I want to know what the mechanism of that is. I want to know how, by what means a machine can take a soul that's not a physical thing, that's somehow like, the thing inside you, your spirit or whatever, that's taken by a physical machine. Like, what's the mechanism there? How does that work? And presumably if he's so certain that it's happening, he would at least understand to some extent, even if it's in a superficial way, how that occurs. I want that laid out. Could you lay that out for us, Ralph, please? And the fact that he kind of just glossed over that for me is kind of like, obviously, yeah. So he's just saying something now and he's moving on. Could be wrong, but yeah. He's also talking about home and healing. How is he defining healing here? He's not clear about that. Again, these are the kinds of things that I want to know. When I'm watching a video like this, these are the kinds of questions I've got. What do you mean by heal? What do you mean by home? What do you mean by conscious? What do you mean by taking your soul? What do you even mean by soul? How can you be sure a soul exists? These, talking about questioning everything, as far as I'm concerned, these are the important questions here. These are the questions that get down to the meat of the issue. And I know Ralph's not too into meat. We'll get onto that in a minute, I think. But yeah, I would want him to demonstrate that. And also he's talking, he kind of makes a medical claim here as well. I would like him to back that up if possible. These are the kinds of questions I feel that need to be asked.
I don't want to become a robot, but in 2020, you are going to see more clones. Are they even people? Who knows? You are going to see more automatons. You are going to see more people who aren't even people. They are cyborgs. That's not going to be me. I'm going to be chilling with a cat down the road in nature, baby. Oh, baby.
So again here, we've got an us versus them, clear as day. I mean, could that be any more obvious? He's also doing something that Lifton talks about a little bit here, to some extent, I think, which is the dispensing of existence. He's are they even human? I think is what he said. He's talking about people who are cyborgs, basically. That's a clear us versus them. That's a clear they don't matter. That's a clear they're not as good as us, as important as us, as knowledgeable as us, as special as us, as human as us, that kind of stuff. That is a real red flag as far as I'm concerned. That is like massive tick on the bite model. Massive tick on the bite model.
Deep divers, what's the fifth thing that's going to happen in 2020? More people are going plant-based. It's inevitable. Already, so many people I'm connecting with are stuffing mangoes in their mouth, oranges, peaches, pears, drinking green juice. People are upgrading their health and they are becoming more mindful of what they are eating. And already, deep divers, just walk around. You are seeing vegan on the menu everywhere. And you are going to see so much more of it. Meat is going to go out of business. But for me, all I know is that I'm only eating what nature created in 2020. So they will try and trick you with something that looks and tastes just like chicken, but it's not chicken. And a lot of people are going to fall for it. So you got to be careful of that trap, deep divers.
I don't think there's much special about making a prediction about something that's inevitable. I think that the joy and the fun of predictions would be that it could not happen, and here we are making a prediction. We're throwing our hat into the ring or whatever, and we'll see what happens. Is throwing your hat into the ring, is that the right phrase? I have no idea. Has to be said though, if the vegans have anything to say about it, more people will be going plant-based this year. I mean, yeah, fair enough again on that one. I don't know what's magical or special about that prediction. Again, it's a similar sort of thing with the teal thing. Like, I could have made these predictions. I could have sat down. Anyone could have sat down and made these predictions. You don't need to be special in any way. You don't need to be insightful, especially insightful in any way, to sit down and make a prediction like this, I don't think. He also says here that the meat business is going to go out of business. That's a pretty bold assertion to make, especially within a year. Like, for that to happen in a year, the whole meat business, which I presume he means the meat industry or whatever, the animal products industry, whatever, is going to go out of business. Maybe he might be right, but I think that's probably quite a lofty expectation to happen in 1 year, for that to happen in 1 year. I don't know if he wants to fill people with hope. If he does, I mean, that's kind of not a bad thing, to give people a bit of hope that their movement is going to make waves. I don't know that really that redeems much of the stuff that we've seen in this video so far, but it's definitely an interesting note when compared to Teal's video. It does seem that Teal's video, the video I did on Teal, where I looked at her blog post on the forecast, she did the video, as I mentioned before. When we look at that forecast, she really is hammering home the fear for people. She's encouraging people to see things in a way that is going to make them nervous and need her, whereas this guy, although there is a little bit of that in this, I think there's very much the us versus them situation here. What we are seeing in this one, at least on this point, is that he seems to be trying to offer people a little bit of hope, which is not very much hope when you think, back, he's talking about archons, he's talking about the fact that everyone's going to be cyborgs and things like that. Like, that's not this is not a shining moment of redemption by any stretch of the imagination. He said here that people that he meets are stuffing mangoes in their mouth. I mean, hopefully not whole. That could be quite a difficult situation to get oneself into, but I do think that this may be a bit of a false consensus. Maybe the people that he's connecting with, maybe the people that he is talking to are. And I have to say, I can't imagine this guy hanging out with people who aren't really thinking the way that he's thinking. So it would make sense that many people that he is meeting with, talking to, are going to be doing that. That's not unreasonable to say, I don't think. Also, people who are going vegan, a lot of them right now, especially in the circles that I'm in and the people that I'm seeing talking about this, they're not really talking about it for health benefits. They're not really talking about it for health reasons. They're talking about it in terms of animal welfare. So it's interesting that he doesn't mention that. Because that would be outside of his circle, you see. This is another interesting thing. It seems that he's speaking from his point of view here, his predictions, and maybe that is what this video is. He hasn't necessarily made any grand claims in this video about the fact that he has any real special insight other than that he's a Pisces and there are many Pisces around. However, this is the first video of his that I've watched in a long time, and there may be other videos where he does make claims like that. I can't speak to that right now, and I don't have enough information on that to have an informed opinion, so I won't say anything on that point. He also says that they're going to be creating meat in labs and stuff, but they're doing that already. That's not a prediction, that's an observation, and that they will continue to do that is a fairly accurate assumption to make. I think it's a fairly safe assumption to make. Like, obviously, if there's unless something goes horribly wrong and we all end up like, I don't know, it's like the meat comes alive and eats us all, I don't think that they're going to stop doing that anytime soon. He says as well that he only wants to eat what nature has created. So again, we've got to define what nature is here. What does he mean when he says nature? And assuming that what he means when he says nature is kind of, I don't know, some kind of creative force or whatever he means by nature, nature created animals as well as plants and stuff. So I don't know why he's drawing a line there. Why is it that it's okay to eat those things, but it's not okay to eat an animal which nature has also created? Is it because of the death involved? Because there is also a degree of death involved in picking and eating a potato, for example, because they're a root vegetable and things like that. In fact, as far as I'm aware, the only real thing that you could eat that doesn't really damage the thing as eating it, I believe, is like mushrooms and fungus and stuff. I don't like to sit here and be facetious with these things, but if you're going to say something like that and you're going to make such a bold assertion there and you're going to be so vague about it, there's going to be some questions to be asked, right?
What's the sixth thing, deep divers, that's gonna happen? Oh, baby. In 2020, what did I have a dream about? It was this, deep divers. In 2020, school's out for summer. There is gonna be a lot of students protesting. A lot of people are going to try and remove student loans. A lot of students are going to rebel. Okay, there's going to be a huge rebellion from the youth. Educational institutions are going to break down because they aren't sustainable and they aren't built on the truth. In the Matrix, they program you from a young age to believe in lies in school. Even in his story, that's why it's his story, it's not yours. What? Slow motion this side. And a lot of people are going to be like, oh, wait a minute, I get it. I'm not going to spend all of this money on education and be fed a whole load of lies.
Again, it's a safe prediction. With the whole Greta Thunberg thing recently, it's possible that might be happening, though it does seem like it's kind of died down right now. There's definitely a need, I think, to improve some of the ways that things are taught and some of the things that are being taught at schools, but to outright say that everything that's being taught at school is a lie is not true. Some of it is not accurate. Some of it is a whitewashed version, especially in case of history. But I'm not really on board with his assertion that, that these people are being taught, children are being taught lies at schools.
What is a seventh thing, deep divers, that is gonna happen in 2020? I've already seen this, deep divers. Conscious communities. That's right. There are gonna be more conscious communities meeting in person, face to face. No, deep divers, they aren't going to be on their smartphone. This smartphone ain't that smart. Did you know, deep divers, that it spies on you? Break it.
He didn't want to really hit that, did he? He didn't want to break it. Break yours, Ralph. If you're going to be telling everybody what to do and to be breaking theirs, break yours first. Lead by example. So he's talking about cult communes by the sounds of it, people gathering together and living together or whatever as well. And also, I don't know if you noticed there, you probably did, it was fairly obvious. Again, he's seeding distrust. He's trying to get people to suspect things about their phones and so on. So, okay, again, with this one, there's a grain of truth there. There's definitely some issues with regards to people not being able to trust their devices, not being able to trust certain companies who are handling data. Obviously, we've got that whole thing that happened the last couple of years. So understandable. I think that in that case, I'm going to let that one slide. But still, we are reinforcing an us versus them and a distrust of institutions and the world outside of people that think like this and live the way that Ralph Smart is basically encouraging people to live. Did you also notice that he was discouraging people from eating meat and stuff? He was saying, he did, in fairness, a lot of what he was saying was, for me, this is the case, I, me, which I would kind of say is slightly better than outright telling people. But then there were a few moments, I think, where he was encouraging people to eat a certain way, eat a vegan lifestyle and that kind of thing, and that people should watch out for fake meat because they'll try and trick you into that. I think I missed that in my response to that part and to that section of the video. But yeah, still, again, that's a distrust, and that's also controlling diet, which is another bite model. How many bite model points do you want to hit in one video? Like, this is unprecedented almost at this point.
There are going to be more retreats, more people getting together face to face in person, talking to each other. Greater connections will be made in 2020 than ever before. The people that you're seeing on YouTube, you're actually going to meet them in real life. How about that, deep divers? You're going to meet the cat down the road, okay?
So I was first watching this clip and I'm thinking, is he setting up a tour here or a retreat or something? Yeah, he is. He talks about his retreat in a minute as well. He's hosting a retreat this year, and that is a nod to it, I think. And apparently there's going to be more, and other people are going to be doing it. That, you know, again, not a prediction. If you've made the plans, if you've hired a venue and organized it and everything, you can't really call that a prediction. can you? It's just, you're just talking about a thing that you've planned. Like, I guess you could call it, I predict that the thing that I've planned is going to happen. I mean,
people are going to start to lose fear. Even though they will try and program you with so much fear, they will try to break up these communities. Beware of that in 2020. What happened to Osho? Okay, it was an inside job. Well, in 2020, they are going to see that, wait a minute, a lot of people are going to start banding together on the love frequency, and they are going to try and distract you. They're going to try and disrupt that activity, but they aren't going to succeed. Shout out to everybody who is coming to my retreat.
okay, Osho was running a cult. If you've watched Wild Wild Country on Netflix and you don't think that was a cult, what were you watching the same thing as everybody else? Like, it wouldn't surprise me that someone like Ralph Smart is watching that and rooting for Osho and like watching the other side. Oh, this damn system is going to bring them down and stuff. Oh, these are such bad people, and Osho was such a wise and insightful person. And I kind of feel like what they didn't show you in that was to what extent maybe Osho was involved in what was going on. That was very ambiguous. And there was this other woman, Sheila, I think, if I remember her name rightly. She was obviously involved and caused a lot of the trouble. But even so, that was a cult situation. There was a lot of really troubling things that were happening there. It's not something that we should be looking up to. It's not something that we should be trying to recreate. I just don't know who could watch that documentary and go, do you know what? I want that. That sounds like a great idea. I'd love to make that happen. Let's go and do that. Obviously here he's saying as well that it was an inside job and that it was brought down from the inside. It was a very complex thing, the relationship between Osho, who wasn't using that name then, but Osho and his basically secretary, I think he called her for a while, and their kind of interplay and how their relationship unfolded and it all kind of blew up. I don't think it's as simple as saying that it was an inside job, and I certainly don't think we should be looking at these things and going, yeah, let's make one of them for ourselves. I mean, come on, did you watch it? Something else that I noticed here is that he's essentially creating a fear of being programmed by fear by someone else, like by them, you know. It's a really interesting approach to what you could call fear indoctrination. It's basically telling people, be scared of this, be scared of that, be aware of these people, them, be aware of all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, he's also saying those people are going to program you with fear, which is actually kind of what he's doing in saying that. It's an interesting thing, especially when the them that he's talking about is so vague and he's offering no real concrete reasons to suspect them or to treat them with any real concern. I think that's what's quite interesting here. I mean, that in and of itself is interesting and quite strange, I think. And at the end there, he's like, oh, shout out to everyone that's coming to my retreat. So, okay, so it is a promo then. All right.
Deep Divers, what's the 8th thing that's going to happen in 2020? I've already seen it, Deep Divers. You are going to have a new app, because as more people go into technology, Instagram won't be as used as it is right now. YouTube will be even stronger, but there will be another kind of app like Instagram, but it will be more conscious. Mark my words.
A new app. That's his 8th prediction. Was it 8th? Was it 8th on the list? A new app. That's it. It's a new app because Instagram's not going to be as popular. And this is going to be a more conscious app. Okay, let's see. And also, again, pretty fucking vague, pretty fucking easy. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he made that app now, because it seems that that's, to him, that could also be a prediction, things he's planned to do. I mean, come on.
Deep Divers, what's the 9th thing that's going to happen in 2020? There is going to be another event similar to 9/11. I saw it in a dream that something bad is going to happen to the planet. A big catastrophe, a major event. And this event is planned. And it's going to happen sometime in 2020. Because you remember Deep Divers, you remember 2012, where everyone was getting so excited for this like whole awakening. That's when it really kicked in 2012. But then they made a film about 2012, like the end of the world. Well, they tried to mess up the awakening wave. So same thing with 2020, because 2020 is perfect vision. So they are going to try to blind the masses. How do you blind someone? By distracting them. What? Slow motion this side.
So again, we've got some fear indoctrination here. He saw it in a dream that something bad's going to happen to the planet. I mean, if you're going to take Ralph Smart's dreams as proof that something's going to happen, then I would be concerned for you. But apparently something bad's going to happen, and Ralph Smart dreamed about that. Again, it's fear indoctrination. I think if I would be a bit cautious to go outright and say it's indoctrination, but it's definitely seeding fear in people. It's definitely encouraging people to be fearful about things that might or might not happen this year, big things. And I think he says it's something like national disaster level, which is concerning as well. He also says that it's planned. Planned by who? Is it the them that he's mentioned so much that he still hasn't clarified? Still hasn't clarified who they are. So him saying here that basically the 2012 energies were basically affected by things like the 2012 movie or whatever sounds like cognitive dissonance a little bit, because I was into the whole New Age thing in 2012. I was into it all then. I was waiting for the awakening on the 21st of December 2012, and nothing fucking happened. After the fact, I basically rationalized that into saying, well, something did happen. It just wasn't what we expected was going to happen. And you do see that a lot. I mean, actually, Leon Festinger's theory of cognitive dissonance, if that's the right way to the right thing to call it, his whole thing with cognitive dissonance, he developed that idea while studying a UFO cult that basically had a similar thing happen. They thought something was going to happen, it didn't happen, and then they rationalized it and fit it into their worldview. And actually their conviction on it became stronger. They believed in the whole thing more, and they threw in with the group more thereafter. That's a really fascinating story if you're not familiar with it. And I would say the same kind of thing happened for me in 2012, although obviously I did eventually get out from under that. And I think the same things happen for a lot of people there as well. He does explicitly say here that they tried to mess up the 2020 wave or the awakening or something. Again, what is this? Who is this they? How did they deliberately try to do that? Was it just making films and things like that? What was going on here?
So there are going to be a lot of false flags, a lot of staged events. So you have to be aware of that. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. We are going to rise, deep divers, okay?
So at the beginning of this, he said that there will be an event that was bad, like a national level event that would be bad. And then and I'm paraphrasing that there because I don't want to set off the YouTube bots or whatever with using the phrase that he used, the name of an event that he used. So I don't think you can get away with saying it too many times in a video probably. But yeah, he mentioned at the beginning that there would be an event like that. And now he said that there's going to be a lot of false flags. So that seems to have changed. I don't know if it's just because he's just kind of making it up on the spot and he forgot what he said, or whether he, what's going on here. But he also mentions Kool-Aid again, which I think is interesting as well. But yeah, I don't know whether we're talking about one event now or multiple events, false flag events in this instance.
And what's the 10th thing that's going to happen in 2020, deep divers? World prediction, the twin flame reunion. More twin flame reunions than ever, because 2020 is all about the water relationship, not the Coca-Cola relationship. And the water relationship can only happen with clear vision. When you see another being, not just for a backside or a nice pair of breasts, or some nice muscles. No, you actually see into their soul. And that's what's going to happen in 2020. You are going to see a lot of people are going to connect with their twin flame and go off into the sunset. Okay, you are going to know with that clear vision, if you are working on yourself right now, who to be with and who not to be with. Who is going to help you evolve and who is going to distract you from your true purpose. That is going to be so clear. All of those green snakes hiding under the green grass are going to be exposed in 2020, because 2020 is the year of revelation. It is the year of the full disclosure. It is the year where the hidden comes to light and there are no more secrets. So this is the year of a greater coming together with someone special. And we are here to create the new world.
So basically, people are going to be in relationships this year. People are going to get in relationships this year. If you're not familiar with the twin flames thing, by the way, that's basically in the new agey version of soulmates, more or less. It's just with a little bit more sacred science thrown in there for extra measure. It's more or less that. It's more or less soulmates. And apparently the 10th item on this list is that there's going to be more people who are meeting this year and being in relationships that are good. I mean, I hope so. I hope more people will end up in relationships. I hope they don't delude themselves into thinking that there's some kind of soul connection between them, because that could kind of muddy the waters as to whether they should be together, whether they're healthy as a couple or whatever. They think, well, we're twin flames, but no, this needs to end because actually we're toxic and, you know, that kind of thing. And apparently people are going to be getting in relationships based on more than their bodies. I mean, geez, Rick, I don't know. I don't know if people are going to be getting into relationships based on more than their bodies, Rick. I don't know. I don't think that's it sounds really unlikely, Rick. I don't know. Shut up, Morty, you piece of shit. Another point here as well is that he's trying to encourage people to be in certain kinds of relationships and not in other kinds of relationships. He's not a relationship expert. He doesn't really have any credentials on this. As far as I know, he is telling people what to do with their relationships by the sounds of it. And that's another bite model point. That's another red flag for me. I mean, how many bite model points have we hit in this? Like 3, 4, something like that. If you've been counting, let me know. The mention of a true purpose there as well kind of flags up for me, because he's talking about what sounds like some kind of mystical imperative. And if you're not familiar with the idea of like a higher purpose, a mystical imperative and that kind of thing, as it relates to cults and so on, I do recommend that you check out my video on mystical manipulation that I did. I had some help from some really awesome people who have each been in cults themselves, and we explored mystical manipulation a little bit there. It's something that Robert J. Lifton talks about in his work. Highly recommend that video. I'll stick a link to that in the description, stick it in the card above for you so you can check that out. This idea that we're here to create a new world seems to have been, I say we, probably not me, I probably don't qualify for that, but seems to be new. That's one of the last things he says in the video, other than his whole outro thing. That's new, he hasn't mentioned that yet, but apparently someone's here to create a new world. I guess that kind of falls to all of us, although I suppose he just means the people that think like him. Anyway, I'll leave it there for today. That's basically the whole video. Obviously, he's got his outro and stuff, but I'm not going to bother responding to that. He's just shilling out his book and things like that. But what I will do is I'll say that if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more from me, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell thing so you get notified whenever I upload a video. Sometimes, most of the time, depending on if the YouTube algorithm thing wants to actually show you my videos, even though you've clicked the button. And before I go, I just want to mention my Patreon again. If you're interested in supporting the channel in a way that goes further than subscribing, commenting, liking the video, things like that, and you've got a little bit of money and you want to invest it into the channel and help me keep making things like this, then please consider doing so. There's a link to my Patreon in the live chat and in the description below. Obviously it's up here on the screen as well, so you can just type that address in if you want to become a patron. There's a bunch of perks on there. I do a live stream once a month that's available just to patrons where I talk about the month and things like that. Obviously soon we'll be starting a podcast when we hit 15 patrons, and you may be the 15th patron if you're watching this when it first comes out and you decide to become a patron. And while we're on Patreon, I do want to say a massive thank you to my current patrons whose names you'll see at the end on the end card, the phase 3 end card, everybody, that you're going to see at the end of the video in a couple of seconds. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.